Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to Latvenergo webinar. Today, we are hosted by Uldis Bariss, Latvenergo Chief Commercial Officer. During the webinar, Mr. Bariss will analyze Latvenergo Group financial results of 6 months 2015 and inform about company's latest activities. Before the presentation begins, a quick reminder for those who have joined us for the first time. Right after the presentation, we will open the floor for questions and answers session. We invite you to write your questions in the question box on the right side of the screen also during the presentation. We have also received questions via email and investors portal nowtheslatest.lv that will be given preference. We will address the rest of the questions afterwards. Mr. Bariss, I invite you to proceed with the presentation.
Good afternoon to everybody. I would like to present Latvenergo Group interim results, first half results of 2015. Agenda of presentation will cover group profiles that will be briefly brief explanation of group and business segments under the group, financial results, and a number of current issues. Let's start with the group profile. I would like to remind that Latvenergo Group is a vertically integrated utility. However, we have complied with directive requirements regarding shareholding and unbundling of transmission operations, and transmission operations is fully unbundled and transferred to a different company, Augsprieguma tīkls, and shareholding of this company is held by Ministry of Finance. So our shares are fully owned by Republic of Latvia, and we have about 4,100 employees. Looking on financial figures, I would like to highlight that our annual revenues are around €1 billion, and our EBITDA margin is has been on the level of 23%, but on the first half we have showed better performance, and it will be explained later. Our assets are about €3.5 billion, and our capital ratio is 58%, so we have a very healthy capital structure. What I would like to point out about these main figures is from operational figures that our retail electricity supply is fluctuating around 8 to 9 terawatt hours annually, and we as an electricity supplier are holding about 1/3 of market share in Baltic countries, so our main market is Latvia, but at the same time we are also active in Estonia and Lithuania. Regarding group structure, we are organized in 3 operating segments. The main activities, also represented by 61% revenues and 58% of EBITDA, are generation and supply. Generation and supply legally is organized in a number of entities. The main one is our parent company, Latvenergo. However, we do have also our subsidiary in Estonia. It's Elektrubesti, in Lietuva, Elektrum Lietuva. Those subsidiaries are mainly responsible for supply or electricity sales activities in these countries. Additionally, we do have 51% of shares in Liepājas Energia, that is a district heating company in Liepājas city. And in 2014, there was established a special subsidiary responsible for mandatory electricity purchase administration, Enerģijas publiskais tirgotājs. The target of or the aim of this subsidiary is to make sure that all activities around public service obligation regarding mandatory purchasing is separating from our electricity generation and supply activities carried out in our parent company Latvenergo. Another operating segment is distribution network. That is a main distribution network in Latvia. That contributes around 28% of revenues and 25% of EBITDA from the group. Additionally, we do hold ownership of transmission assets. Even operation and management of all transmission activities is separated from Latvenergo Group. We still retain title to transmission assets, and this activity provides 5% of our group's revenue. However, it is much more important regarding our profitability because it contributes 13% to our EBITDA. So the next, I would like to go a bit more details through our financial results in first half of 2015. Let me start with a short description of market condition. As we are selling and producing electricity, very important aspect for our business is development of electricity prices in Nordics. Electricity grid in Baltic countries is actually very well interconnected, and over last years there have been a number of projects that connected our Baltic grid also to Nordic electricity transmission grid. Currently there are two cables connecting Estonia and Finland. And due to these connections, actually electricity price, which is formed in Baltics, actually is very much dependent on those market conditions that are developing in Nordic countries. And as we can see, in the first half of this year, Nord Pool spot price, that is electricity price quoted on Nord Pool spot exchange in Finland, has decreased by 17%, and actually we have experienced the same result also in prices in Latvia and Lithuania. So those prices actually decreased by 18%. Additionally, what we should also highlight is that despite the general reduction of prices, the difference between price in Latvia and Lithuania and in Scandinavia still are present, that prices in Latvia and Lithuania are higher because of transmission congestions, and as a result this capacity shortage we can see that the overall price has decreased, but the spread still continues approximately the same as last year. Another important factor in our market conditions has been gradual decrease of natural gas. As one of our main generation facilities, our CHP plants are using natural gas for generation of heat and electricity. Natural gas is very important for our financial results. We have seen in the first half of 2015 a gradual decline of prices, around -6%. However, what should be pointed out is that if we are looking on monthly prices, that now looking in price of August, it has actually reduced further by 15%. This gradual decrease is actually due to the fact that gas prices in Latvia is linked to 9 months moving average price of oil products. Therefore, going forward to our revenues and profitability, what we can point out is that revenues for the first half of 2015 have reduced. However, this reduction is mainly attributed to accounting changes of mandatory procurement. Before, in 2014, mandatory procurement of a public service obligation, as electricity that is purchased at feed-in tariffs, were recognized as a group's revenue and costs. But starting from 1st of April 2014, these transactions are recognized based on agent principle, and therefore it is not anymore forming our revenue and cost base. At the same time, our EBITDA have increased, and EBITDA margin went up to 29%. The increase actually is very much due to the factors that from the 1st of January there was opening of household electricity market. And if in 2014 electricity supplies to households were regulated and regulated tariff was actually below market price, then currently from the 1st of January all our customer segments are on the free market. In 2014, actually in the first half, due to regulated tariffs, we earned about 21 million less revenues as it would be under market conditions, and therefore the lifting of regulation has been a very positive factor and contributed to our EBITDA increase. Further, I would like to go to our segment results. First, let me start with generation and supply. As I mentioned, generation and supply is our biggest operating segment, contributing 61% of revenue and 58% of EBITDA. In this segment, we can see that the biggest contributor to EBITDA increase was, as I mentioned, market liberalization. However, a revenue decrease was due to changes in accounting policy. Additionally, what should be mentioned that electricity supply during first half of 2015 was significantly lower in comparison with the corresponding period of 2014. However, despite of that, we still retained roughly 1/3 of market share in Baltics, and additionally, we have increased significantly also our number of customers in Estonia and Lithuania. This number now is close to 35,000, and that is about 9% increase in comparison with the last year. Regarding generation, our generation was slightly lower than last year. However, looking on contributing factors, Daugavas hydropower plants has increased by 7%, and our thermal generation was lower, mainly due to the reduction of Nord Pool spot prices, as we have quite a flexibility to actually change our sourcing of our sales, switching from generation in our cogeneration plants and substituting that by deliveries from power exchange. And as we had relatively low prices in power exchange, then we actually switched from partially switched from generation in CHPs to supplies from spot. Looking on distribution segment, I would like to highlight that this is a regulated segment, and therefore it is quite stable, and we can see that also on figures. What should be probably highlighted is the increase of investments, as we have reported also in our annual report of 2014. One of our strategic goals is development of balanced network, and there was a developed network plan that envisages gradual increase of investments, and therefore here we can see results of our development plan, and distribution investments has been increasing from 32 million in first half of 2014 to 43 million in 2015. And finally, looking on our third operating segment, transmission assets, here we should highlight that at the beginning of 2015, there were significant restructuring of organizational structure of transmission asset company, Latvijas Elektrisktie Tīkli. That was a last step of separating transmission activities from our group, and on the 1st of January, 430 employees were transferred from our group to independent transmission system operator, Augstsprieguma Tīkls. Therefore, from the 1st of January, only activities left in our group is ownership of transmission assets and leasing them out to independent transmission system operator. That also explains why our revenues have decreased in comparison with the first half of 2014. However, our profitability and EBITDA have increased. As before, in 2014, part of contributing factor to revenues were transmission asset maintenance, that was taking quite a significant part in our revenue shares, however contributing quite little to our bottom line. And the next slide, where I would like to summarize investments over all three operating segments. As we can see, our investments in first half of 2015 went up, reaching 79.3 million. The main factor contributing to increase of capital expenditure actually was investment project of Daugavas hydropower plant reconstruction. We have started this reconstruction project with the aim by 2022 to have fully renewed all our generation units in Daugavas hydropower plants. And as we can see from financial results, in this year, this project has taken quite a speed. There were also two additional factors that offset each other. We have increased capital expenditure in transmission network. However, at this, about 11 million, but at the same time, we do not have anymore in our results in first half increase of transmission assets because Nordbalt Kurzemes ring was completed last year, this first and second stage. Currently, we have plans to start the third stage with completion in 2019. There is received approval of co-financing from EU at the level of 45%, and so we are looking forward for the project development in future. There will be also quite significant investment in transmission network as a third transmission connection between Estonia and Latvia. And also this project is planned to be co-financed from EU funds. Intensity is expected 65%. And now I want to move to our debt and liquidity position. In order to finance our capital expenditures and also to refinance our borrowing portfolio, we are implying quite timely policy for making sure that the funding for those needs are in place. What should be pointed out that during June we have issued green bonds in the amount of 75 million. And as a result, our structure currently is reasonably balanced between issued bonds, which is at about 21% of our borrowing portfolio, commercial banks 24%, and international investment institutions and banks 55%. Looking on our debt repayment schedule, it is quite well spread out over next 5 to 7 years. Additionally, of course, we are also keeping a reasonable position of committed long-term loans in order to make sure that the position is covered at least for rolling 18 months. And now I would want to touch to three current issues. That's the issue of green bonds, what I have slightly touched. Development over mandatory procurement or public service obligation and Baltic electricity market. So, as I said, the issue of green bonds was very successful development in our financing strategy. So we have been first state-owned green bond issuer in Eastern Europe. So we have issued under a program of dark green shading. That is, we have second opinion on our green bond framework provided by Cicero. And the date of issue was 10th of June with 7 years maturity and with a fixed rate coupon 1.9%. The second issue what we would like to mention is further developments regarding public service obligation. We have had government policies that public service obligation fee would be kept for final customers constant over a certain period of time, and very recently there was a government decision regarding this policy that it will still be continued for the next 3 years. Of course, that additionally, that this decision also included a proposal for government budget that our dividend payout ratio might be set close to 100%. Regarding all state-owned enterprises, there was a finance ministry decision to increase this payout ratio to 90% for next year. However, regarding that, we are one of contributors to support this mandatory procurement fee freezing policy. So for us, this dividend payout ratio might be close to 100%. And the third one, that is development of Baltic electricity market. As I have mentioned, from the 1st of January, there was actually the last step of market opening in Latvia. As a result, all households in Latvia is purchasing electricity on a free market. In Estonia, situation is the same. The market is 100% open and deregulated. In Lithuania, the situation is not exactly the same. They have still regulation over household market, and therefore I would say that the market is in practice open only for business customers. However, despite those challenges of market opening, I would like to mention that our competitive position is quite strong. Our generation portfolio has a very low CO2 exposure, and that's quite important, taking into account that in generation CO2 emission costs are a significant part of our marginal costs. Additionally, we have developed a new brand for electricity sales across Baltics, that's Electrum. And we do have quite a well-balanced retail and generation portfolio where we can mix between our generation and in a favorable conditions also with supplies from spot market. And we do have roughly about 1/3 of electricity supplies market shares. So that actually is it from intended presentation, and I would be very happy to proceed with questions and answers. Thank you.
Mr. Bariss, thank you for the presentation. Now I will proceed with the questions in the order they were received. But before, I would like to remind you that you can send in questions in the section on the right side of your screen. So first question. How had the changes in Latvenergo Management Board affected company's daily work and long-term vision?
Thank you for the question. Well, I think that probably it is easier to start with long-term vision. The changes in management board definitely would not anyhow impact company's long-term vision and also long-term ambitions. As we have disclosed in our annual report, we have a set strategy by 2016, and yeah, we are going to, from one side, continue with implementation of this strategy, and of course we will start with development of strategy for the next period. Regarding current issues, yeah, we do have quite organized structure, and there is no any issues in our operational level.
Thank you, Mr. Bariss. The next question. In Latvenergo announcement, Ms. Kotane, who has recently resigned from management board, was praised for her contribution in the improvement of company's transparency, good corporate governance practices, and issuance of bonds. Do you plan to keep up in these areas also in the future?
Thank you for the question. Well, I can also once more only thank to Ms. Zane Kotane regarding her contribution to development of reporting and issuing of bonds and other activities contributing to our company's transparency. Of course, that we as a company will further develop all these areas. For example, in this year we are currently developing our sustainability report according to the latest global reporting initiatives guidelines G4, and as these guidelines require more enhanced stakeholder engagement. For example, next month we are planning a special event seminar to actually engage our main selected stakeholders in assessing and reviewing what issues are most important and regarding our reporting and our disclosures. Thank you.
Thank you for an answer given. I will proceed with the questions. According to Latvenergo statements, one of the strategic objectives to achieve this year, until 2016, is the strengthening of the market position in the Baltics. What are the instruments you use in order to achieve the goal, considering the tight competition?
Thank you for the question. Yes, one of our strategic targets is by 2016 is a balanced development of our Baltic our presence in Baltic market, and as we can see from the first half of results of 2015, we have increased our customer base in Lithuania and Estonia by 9%, and we are continuing to be present in all customer segments, starting with corporates, small and medium enterprises, and continuing with households where the market is liberalized. So we are expecting that by the end of 2016 this strategic target will be implemented. We do have also other targets which are disclosed on strategic targets, and which are disclosed in our annual report, namely diversification of electricity generation sources and also balanced development of our networks. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question: how are other goals set for the year 2015 being fulfilled?
Thank you for this question. As I just mentioned with the answer on the previous one, the other two, our strategic goals are diversification of electricity generation sources and balanced development of networks. Regarding diversification of generation sources, this is not a one-year target. It is more long-lasting target, and I should mention that we have started that with reconstruction of our thermal power plants. We have fully reconstructed both of them, Riga Tech 1 and Tech 2, and currently we are proceeding with our program to overhaul Daugavas hydropower plant units, and as we have seen in our capital expenditure in first half of 2015, the increase was largely attributable to due to investments in hydropower plants. So we are very active in order to make sure that we are well prepared regarding diversification of generation sources. The last target or goal is balanced development of networks. As also it was mentioned in our report in 2014, we have developed and quite ambitious network development plan, and based on the plan we also are proceeding with significant increase in our capital expenditure, and in the first half of the year we increased the capital expenditure in distribution networks by 11 million. Thank you.
Thank you. I will proceed with the next question. It is planned that as of next year, Latvia will introduce so-called solidarity tax to be paid by persons receiving more than 48.6 thousand euro per annum in salary. Lat Telecom has already commented on that, saying that it might result in increase of service prices, decrease of number of employees, and unexpected expenses. Do you forecast that it may have any effect also on Latvenergo?
Thank you for the question. Of course, any changes in business environment and also in taxes will impact also our company. However, I would say that looking on our cost base, our employee costs are definitely not the biggest contributor to the final price. And therefore it would be for me difficult to say whether that could have a significant impact on our customers. Anyhow, we will make sure that we are as a company operating as efficiently as possible and try to improve our efficiency and make sure that we can get over any such unexpected changes. Thank you.
Thank you. I will proceed with the questions for from participants. As I understood from your presentation, Latvenergo within Green Bond program can issue bonds in total amount up to 100 million euro. However, currently the total value of issued green bonds amounts to 75 million euro. Do you plan to continue the program and issue the rest 25 million euro bonds?
Well, thank you for the question. First, let me say that we are, as a company, committed to continue our strategy on diversified sources for funding our investment program and bond programs, and therefore also issuing bonds is definitely on our agenda. However, I would like to say that current liquidity position for our company is quite healthy, and therefore we will watch what developments will happen on the market, and also of course look on our current developments of our needs on financing and make decisions accordingly. Thank you.
The next question. What is the probability that the new management board member of Latvenergo will come from Latvenergo internally?
Thank you for the question. I think that the selection process that is the sole responsibility and under responsibility authority of our shareholder is carried out in the best and transparent way, as actually there was an announcement of public announcement yesterday, and we have had also seen advertisements today. And I hope that our employees will have a good opportunity to participate, and I wish success for them. So let's see and wait what results will be. Thank you.
Thank you for an answer. The next question. The contracts of current board members of Latvenergo end this year. Have any talks begun with the Ministry of Economics about the renewals of said contracts?
Thank you for the question. That's correct. Our contracts as members of the management board expires towards the end of this year, and as I also mentioned in a previous answer, our shareholder is quite active and transparent over a selection of currently free position on management board, and also quite involved in further development of corporate structure of our company. So I think that immediately when any information will be available to be submitted to public knowledge, that will be done in due course. Thank you.
Thank you for an answer. Before I read the last question, I remind you that you can still type in questions in the question box on the right side of your screen. And now the final question by now. How will Latvenergo's competitive position change with the opening of the Nord-Balt, I suppose meaning Nordic-Baltic cable, and Lit-Pol link, meaning Lithuanian-Poland link?
Well, thank you for the question. I think that Nord-Baltic cable and Lit-Pol link is quite well known factors for Baltic electricity market, as all electricity sales actually are sold to customers for future periods. That is, we already are selling to customers that market conditions under which is assumed that those Nord-Balt cable and Lit-Pol link are in operation. And as I mentioned, we are still retaining 1/3 of Baltic electricity market share, and I would say that taking into account that our generation portfolio consists of hydropower plant that is highly competitive generation source, and our generation portfolio also contains our CHPs, that is power plants, heat and combined heat power plants that can be very flexible. I think that we are well positioned to those conditions, which will be next year after those two cables will be coming into operation. Thank you.
Mr. Bariss, thank you for an answers given. All questions are answered by now, but maybe we can wait a bit. Maybe somebody is typing in a question. I remind you that the recording of the webinar will be available in Nasdaq Baltic YouTube channel as well as in Investors Portal Naudas Lietas. You can contact company by email and contacts presented in the screen. Mr. Bariss, thank you for the presentation again and for answers given. Participants, thank you for joining, and we hope you will join us also next time.
Thank you.